On May 17, 1954, penning the majority opinion for the highest court in the land, as established by the Constitution of the United States in Article 3, a progressive Chief Justice, Earl Warren, wrote the majority opinion for the court in what is often referred to as a landmark decision for civil rights, bringing desegregation with all deliberate speed to public education. That case was brought to that tribunal by Thurgood Marshall, an attorney for the NAACP, which today markets itself as the oldest and boldest civil rights organization, but whose latest argument with regard to education was back in 2016, declaring a moratorium on public charter schools, the only method that has found any success in addressing an achievement gap in our public schools, over 50% of which are underperforming, and where over 50% of the students in them lack the ability to read, write, or perform arithmetic at grade level. And today, they are even silent when public schools are closed. In a pandemic crisis that in cities where persons of color predominate, these persons bear a disproportionate share of the fatalities to a novel coronavirus, such as in the city of Richmond, Virginia, where despite representing about 47% of the population, they account for over 60% of the fatalities to a novel coronavirus, while their African-American Democrat mayor believed that the most pressing concern during a pandemic crisis was the removal of statues that have stood there for years. But in history, a black history, perhaps forgotten, in a case brought by a father, Oliver Brown, on behalf of his daughter Linda, on May 17, 1954, the progressive Chief Justice wrote that today, education is perhaps the most important function of state and local governments. Compulsory school attendance laws and the great expenditures for education both demonstrate our recognition of the importance of education to our democratic society. It is required in the performance of our most basic public responsibilities, even service in the armed forces. It is the very foundation of good citizenship. Today, it is a principal instrument in awakening the child to cultural values, in preparing him for later professional training, and in helping him to adjust normally to his environment. In these days, it is doubtful that any child may reasonably be expected to succeed in life if he is denied the opportunity of an education. Such an opportunity, where the state has undertaken to provide it, is a right which must be made available to all on equal terms. We come then to the question presented: does segregation of children in public schools solely on the basis of race, even though the physical facilities and other tangible factors may be equal, deprive the children of the minority group of equal educational opportunities? We believe that it does. And today, no matter how beautiful the public school facilities are in municipalities like the County of Arlington, and desegregated in a county like Arlington, it actually took 5 years to accept that noble decree, and only did so after an attempt to replace the entire Arlington Public School Board to resist compliance, and under the mandate of yet another federal court. In-person instruction in public schools, where children of color comprise the plurality of the student body, has been discontinued for all students, like devotional worship, since before the coming of spring. Nonetheless, disparities in school facilities that are now closed was the most important question in 1954 for many persons of color and progressives. But today, if social media is any gauge of public opinions, the most burning question in a pandemic with less than a month before election results are tallied in a state where, according to Senator Mark Warner, over 750,000 residents have already cast their vote. is disbelief that a woman did not wear a mask while shopping for groceries. So let's take the next few minutes discussing this important issue, which is actually quite critical because the first laboratory-confirmed case of COVID-19 was reported in Everett, Washington on January 20th, 2020. The pathogen did not arrive in the Commonwealth of Virginia with a first laboratory-confirmed case until March 7th, 2020. And we are now in October. And this is very, very basic knowledge that you should fully understand by now. Technically, no one in the photograph is wearing a quote-unquote mask, as a mask, properly defined, connotes medical grade protection, like an N95, which as a hydrophobic shield that is equipped with a ventilator that is designed to filter out 95% of nanoparticles that measure less than 3 microns. So technically, you're saying that there is a woman who is not wearing a facial covering, which on August 6, 2020, the CDC clarified is a hydrophilic cloth simple barrier that is used to prevent an infected person from infecting others, because its hydrophilic properties enable it to absorb droplets and expedite evaporation, essentially creating a snot shield on your face, mandated by law. That is called source control, as these simple barriers have been used in hospitals for years to prevent sick people from infecting others. And if you are sick, it is probably a good idea to wear a mask to prevent infecting others in many cases. However, if you have been following the science, you may have heard that one, masks like the N95 are not recommended for source control because the ventilator only works to block inhaled particles. 2, that a facial covering absorbs only 90% of the particles that are attempting to pass through that simple barrier, while the larger risk is from particles that escape from the sides. A phenomenon with which you may be familiar if you wear glasses that get fogged when you wear a facial covering. And 3, they are totally ineffective in blocking aerosols, an empirical fact that you can experience if you get tear gassed while wearing your facial covering. And at the beginning of July, 239 scientists who have examined multiple cases involving infection by SARS-CoV-2 particles in COVID-19 patients determined that the pathogen that caused governors to mandate those masks, that you call them, or facial coverings, as scientists call them, is being primarily transmitted as an aerosol. So the imperative question that you really should be asking today, especially if you have already taken the opportunity to cast your vote as a person of color, is why you are asking why a woman is not wearing a mask if you don't know the science. We have a pandemic crisis, and Mama used to say, you are grown. And it is better to have your feelings hurt than to wake up surprised in a hospital bed because you were just dead wrong about the science. My name is Major Mike Webb, and I am running for U.S. Congress with liberty, honor, and excellence. By God, we shall make America great again. Honest. This advertisement was authorized by Mike Webb.